Welcome in everyone to another live Seahawks Aftermath, and this time it's Seahawks Victory Monday. So we get to enjoy the fact that we beat the living hell out of the Commanders last night, which was awesome to see. Like, that was actually the first three-phase complete win for the Seahawks this season over a decently desperate opponent to still stay relevant. Obviously, the injury at the end of the game was just an unfortunate circumstance that transpired. But there's a lot to talk about, Mike. Obviously, this team, Sam Darnold, this defense, we're in the midst of the last under 24 hours, I guess 18 hours left of this trade deadline going on. So we'll touch on some of that stuff. And we'll also give out our game balls for the 3 game balls for the other night's game. So before we get into that, a bunch of you guys are currently unsubscribed to this channel. So if you can, please subscribe to it. Click that notification button. Click the like button when you like content. Comment. Be active in the chat. You guys are great in there in the community that we've already built, and everyone that is subscribed. I appreciate every single one of you. So with all that being said, we'll get into this matchup and the trade deadline right after this. All right, everyone. That might be my best intro yet that I've actually cooked up. So I'm actually really proud of that one. But let's talk about, obviously, the Seahawks Victory Monday here, Mike. And so the Seahawks beat the Commanders 38-14. How did you feel watching that game from kickoff to the end of it? Was that the most complete Seahawks victory of the season for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you consider the opponent, again, I think Seattle could have beat the Saints 63 to 17 or whatever if they wanted to, but they kind of pulled out the stops because the Saints are just that bad. DC is not that bad. Did they have a pretty bad offseason? I think so. But this is still a team that was one win away from going to the Super Bowl. They were desperate. They had to get a win. They got their superstar quarterback back. And it's Sunday Night Football. It's Art Monk's retirement. You have all this juice, right? For a game that we should win, being a tight contest. And it's one of those games where you tend to lose sometimes. And it's like, okay, you're just like everyone else. Seattle showed last night they are not like everyone else, right? I can't think of another game where I've seen the national broadcast group just gush over us for 3.5 quarters, right? Unbelievable love fest that we just got. And all day today from the national media, everyone's talking about this was that nationally televised big game. Is it against a current Super Bowl contending team? I don't think so. And that's still to come here, coming up pretty shortly. But this was a statement. This reminded me, for some of you guys that are old enough to remember, when Seattle went to Philadelphia, their first Super Bowl season. And they played a bad Eagles team that McNabb was hurt. But it was 40-0 almost by halftime. Very similar style game of what we just watched. And basically Al Michaels and John Madden were like, okay, well, yeah, that's the team we're going to see when we do the broadcast for the Super Bowl in Detroit. And sure enough, it was. That's what it felt like. I think Mike even said, I talked about it in my 4 Down Territory article today. Mike Tirico just basically said, hello, Seattle. And that's what it was. It was a welcome to the nation. The Seahawks that you guys all remember from back in the Russ and LOB era, this is the new iteration. And by golly, it looked really freaking similar to that era of just, oh, this game's over in 20 minutes. We are going to beat the shit out of you figuratively and literally, like, again, we are hurting teams. Not saying that's something to celebrate, but we are hurting teams on defense. And then offensively, we're just cooking. I mean, you have, in my opinion, one of the MVP frontrunners is Sam Darnold, and the Offensive Player of the Year heavy favorite in JSN, absolutely cooking. No cup, no problem. Other guys step up. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but just an absolute. I think I was just laughing half the time because I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening right now. And you got Chris Collinsworth, who's not talking about Pat Mahomes or Tom Brady or all the guys he's talked about for 20 years. No, he's talking about Sam Darnold and Mike Macdonald. The Seahawks like took a seat at the table last night, and that it's exciting. It's cool to feel like you're kind of back in that upper echelon. You're at the main table. That's what it feels like right now.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I'll say is Seattle is sitting at that main table now, and not just in my opinion in the NFC. I think in the entire NFL, and that's 100%. What my whole thing is this isn't just, hey, we made a statement, we're legitimate in the NFC. It's more like a, hey, NFL, we're back up in that Pacific Northwest, and we've got a team, and you all better be prepared to play that team. And Richard Sherman talked about it on his show, and I've heard a bunch now. Is like Seattle's not a team you want to see in January. Because I got a feeling Seattle's going to figure it out at home now. I think that Texans game, be interesting to see what this Cardinals game looks like. But I think the Seahawks are going to figure it out at home. And then on the flip side, they are not a team that is afraid to go on the road and kick the crap out of you. Like, historical. That's the weirdest thing. Yeah, and that's the weirdest thing, to have a team that is so good on the road. Like, historically good on the road. And sit there and be like, yeah, okay, our home record, hopefully that gets coming on. Like, Seattle's a team where it's like, yeah, cool, we got to go on the road in the playoffs for a couple games. Whatever. Like, we'll go and kick the crap out of you in your house and then just keep on chugging along here. The big thing for me that I liked last night was you got to see an offense where, yes, JSN was still a vital part of that offense. He, again, had his 8 catches for 129 yards.
Yeah.
He had 0 touchdowns. You had Torrey Horton going off, a guy that we all and they're going, okay, without Cup, Torrey Horton's going to have to step up. No Bobo. We're going to have to find other guys that can contribute. Arroyo gets a touchdown. Barner gets a touchdown. You know, Cody White gets a touchdown. Like
Cody White, yeah.
You got to see them spread the ball around. And to me, that was the one thing I had been waiting to see. Okay, can JSN still be a part of this offense, but can we also get other pieces involved where teams are going to be like, yeah, crap, if we really focus on JSN and try and cover him straight up, like Torrey Horton go. I got a feeling by the time the end of the season comes, and we're playing that 49ers game at the end of the season, Cooper Kupp may still theoretically be receiver 2, but the viable receiving option number 2 of actually being an explosive, impactful part will be Torrey Horton. Because for me, Torrey Horton's best comparison right now, and some people may forget of his offensive contributions because he was a really good punt returner, he reminds me so much of Nate Burleson and what Nate could do. Like just the build, the ability to get open,
explosive plays.
Exactly. And that's what you kind of need. And so, you know, again, the run game took some steps in the positive direction, I felt last night. Yes, there were still some issues, but Ken Walker looked good. And the thing that would make me so happy was seeing that jet sweep to JSN. I was like, where has this been a part of the offense? Like, finally, we're seeing those kind of things come into being a part of it. Overall, man, like, that to me put so much of the questions I still had. Like I said, after the Texans game, I felt empty. Like I wanted to see them play a full game. What do the full Seahawks look like? If that's what the full Seahawks look like, and we're still sitting there, you listen to Mike and he's like, there's still things to grow on. There's still things to get better on. And your run game still isn't 100% there yet of being a actual like scary factor. This team could be absolutely terrifying to play. Because this defense is rolling. You're seeing now with what they can do with Emenwari and Spoon. Like, and you're getting these other guys to contribute. Drake Thomas is doing well. Like, I know people are like, we need to add a linebacker. And I agree, we do.
Yeah,
but I don't know if we need to go get Ty Okada. Ty Okada, I think, has made this offseason coming up for John Schneider and Mike Macdonald much more difficult on deciding what they're doing in the safety room. Because I think there's a higher chance than more that Kobe Bryant is going to potentially be a free agent that walks away because Seattle looks and goes, we can draft a guy and we've got Ty Okada that can play beside Julian Love. And you've got Nick Emenwari and you're going to use Nick in different packages. Like the three of them, like I don't know, man. Like that interception, that's the athleticism part for me that Ty tested better at coming out of college, and it shows up. And man, dude, he knocked out Josh Jobe on accident, friendly fire,
Yeah.
but he came in, and if that had stuck on that player for Washington, that guy might have been knocked out. But that's something that we didn't necessarily know about Ty Okada in the limited time that we had seen him in the preseason. Now you're seeing this guy just play free and go make plays. And I think Mike put it really good today on his 710 show. And you can tell that Tampa Bay game is stuck with him in that he feels he is really the main reason they lost that game. And he made a statement today, and it was, I got to keep reminding myself, Mike, get out of the way. Get out of the way of this team. Get out of the way of making – and that is just such great self-awareness of a head coach now, of being like, yeah, I can't be in the way of these guys. I got to put these guys in the best position to go play. So overall, man, like the Cardinals are probably sitting there going, oh, what are we running into? What are we about to walk into Lumen Field this Sunday and have to play? So it'll be interesting, and we will get to all the chats and comments that are coming in. I'm so happy you guys are engaging in this. It's great. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about Air Darnold, because that dude is playing football at a completely another level that we have maybe this goes back to 2015 Russ.
Yeah, I think that's a good comp in terms of Seattle level of production. We haven't seen a gunslinger like that since that season, and before that you're probably looking at what, like 07, 05 hot streaks with Matt Hasselbeck. And again, Sam's playing at a higher level than Matt ever was. And like you said, other than that brief window from Russ, which a lot of that had to do with his legs. Again, he had a great year throwing the ball in 15, but like, I don't know about you. I know you and I have talked about this off our pod and in other forms. I saw so much of like the best of Kurt Warner last night, with just the way he just sits back up there, maneuvers the pocket well enough, and just slings it 15, 25 yards down the field with just like absolute like lethal precision. Like when Kurt was on that 99 to 01 Rams, and then the 07 to 09 Cardinals, like those 3-year windows, like Kurt Warner was a top 5, top 6 quarterback in the NFL. And maybe Sam's not at the Hall of Fame level that Kurt is, but like last night you saw it. Like the money ball to Arroyo was absolutely like just lethal. All those third down and those slants that he was just absolutely nailing to Kenneth Walker or JSN, moving the chains. He felt so comfortable. Is it 3rd and 1? Is it 3rd and 8? Doesn't matter, right? And that's when you get a quarterback that feels so confident and has number 1 overall pick talent, and you pair him with Kubiak, who understands the value of like, I need to continue to run the ball. It may never break, but I'm going to break the defense because like the talent I have and the pieces I have, I'm understanding the flow, right? And I feel like as each week has gone on, you're seeing Clint and Sam and this offense just get a little bit more comfortable. And obviously, like there's certain games that have been better than some, but like other than that mistake that you can make a case the pressure finally kind of got to Sam, I think you can say he played a perfect game before they took their foot off the gas. And this is what, the 3rd game this year that the Seahawks have taken their foot off the gas, right? Like this could have even been worse. I wrote about it today. Sam is now the 4th quarterback to have, through his first 8 games, complete 70% of his passes, throw 15 touchdowns, throw for 2,000 yards, and get sacked less than 10 times through his first 8 games. Now, that's a testament to the offensive line. That's a testament to the receivers playing unbelievable, running backs getting their blocks in and getting open when they need to. But that's also, at the end of the day, like that's on Sam as well. The other 3 guys that have done that, undefeated season until the Super Bowl, Tom Brady, who won MVP. Undefeated regular season until the Colts decided they didn't want to be undefeated in 09 when Peyton Manning won MVP. That was the year they lost the Super Bowl to the Saints. And then 2018 Drew Brees, when he finished 2nd in the MVP only because Patrick Mahomes burst onto the scene that year and threw for 50 touchdowns. That's the same Saints team that should have gone to the Super Bowl if not for that horrible no call and that pass interference. So you're looking at 3 teams that you could probably make a case for 3 of like the 20 best teams in NFL in the last 15 or in the last almost 20 years. 07, 09, and 18. Those three teams all probably could have and should have won their Super Bowls that year. And that's just a testament to the level that Sam is playing at. Sam is playing at an MVP or a runner-up MVP level. Like, I would say he's battling Drake May, and if you want to make a case for Josh Allen, which I don't even know if I would put him in that spot right now, he's probably battling his own teammate. And then Jonathan Taylor didn't show up on yesterday against the Steelers. So, like, it might be Sam and Drake, which is crazy. This is the kind of year it is. And then again, DVOA, it shows it. This offense, this is the best passing offense in the NFL. And that's Sam, like you said, QB1 right now, absolutely unleashed. Him and Drake May are playing at a level. It's like us going on Madden and getting to play on rookie level after having played Madden our entire lives. It's like, all right, 4 verts. We're going to figure out how we're going to get deep balls, explosive plays over and over. They're doing this in real life. It's unbelievable.
The thing for me about the Seahawks, especially what Sam and JSN are doing, is I don't think we have ever this level of QB and receiver connection, and to the point where it's like you almost expect JSN. It's like, oh yeah, he's going to go over 100 yards. Like, in that game, it was like, yeah, JSN's going to go over 100. Like, doesn't matter. They can keep trying. And I've been saying for the last couple of weeks now, like, eventually a team's going to take him away. Well, what's taking him away? Oh, JSN went for 88 yards and a touchdown today. Like, I don't know if there's going to be a team that holds JSN to under 80 yards in a game. Like, that's the point that he's playing.
Yeah, Derek Stingley's the best cornerback that we have seen so far this year. You can make a case that he is a top 5 cornerback in the NFL, and JSN absolutely kicked his ass. The whole game when the Seahawks were trying to be aggressive on offense, Derek Stingley looked like he could barely keep up with JSN. He is just an absolute NFL superstar in the short bursts, getting open. Bryce, this guy's on pace for 2,000 receiving yards. That has never happened. I get there's a 17-game season, but still 2,000 receiving yards from a Seahawks wide receiver. What the hell's going on?
I know it's a weird state, to be a Seahawks fan, in the fact that we're talking about having the number 1 point blank NFL receiver this year and number 1 basically statistical quarterback in a lot of ways. But it's a world I'm happy to live in, because usually when you get that, you're talking about, oh yeah, well, we're in these shootouts all the time and we're not, winning games. We're back and forth because our defense isn't playing well. Well, sorry, we have one of the best NFL defensive minds and a team right now that is just playing out of its mind on defense, and that's still missing key pieces to it. So this team is going to be really interesting. I will have to say my favorite throw last night of Sam Darnold wasn't a touchdown. It wasn't, the shovel to Charbonnet at the last second there, which was still a phenomenal play. Yeah. It was one of his throws to JSN early in the game. I think it was in the second quarter. And he's avoiding the rush, and he plants, and he throws this inbreaker to JSN, who's just sat down in the zone. And JSN takes it, I think, for 14 yards or something. But watching Sam maneuver the pocket and have his feet and everything, and then he just flips it and the ball's out. And I mean on a line right to JSN. It's throws like that where you just kind of sit there, for me, I sit there and I go, yeah, that's different. Like that's different talent. Like, we talked about, previous quarterbacks in Seattle with Russ and with Geno, and Russ had the famous deep ball, the moon ball, right? That was Russ's thing. But there is a certain velocity to that ball coming out of Sam's hand, and the accuracy of where that ball goes. I know he threw his one interception, and there's some people like, oh, it was a horrible interception. Yeah, it wasn't a great one. But if you watch it from behind in the All-22 clip, if he leads Cody White as he's going to his left, and White catches that, White's gone. He's going to get 30 yards off that play. Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm just kind of sitting there going, Sam was in his bag. People like to say, it's unreal.
You're talking about your throw. I think that was the one they were kind of backed up in their own end zone. They kind of got out of it, and then all of a sudden it was like, game on. We're putting pedal to the metal again. I think of the throw that got them the field goal before the half. I think that was a 25, 23. I can't remember how far that throw was. But again, you're talking about threading the needle. And again, that's where I go back to the Kurt Warner stuff. You go back and watch those Hall of Fame highlights. those are those pinpoint things or throws that Kurt would just dial into Torrey Holt, to Oz Hakeem, to Ricky Prohl, to Isaac Bruce, for all of you fans that remember that. Like, just absolute beautiful, and a testament to JSN as well. Like, those two are completely in sync right now. And like, I feel like maybe 2 or 3 throws this entire season, those two have been like way off on something. I'm trying to think, and I think that was kind of probably either because of pressure or something. They've just constantly been in line. It's been an unbelievable start. Hopefully they can continue it for the final 9 games.
So let's talk about this other unit tonight, Mike. And Mike Macdonald's got a masterpiece going on right now. And this defense is on lockdown. Like, they're suffocating other teams. Like, Jaden Daniels was under pressure on half of his dropbacks. I think it was 51 ended up being at the end of the game, or 54.
Most of his career. Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, it was funny because, you go back and you watch, and a lot of teams that have played Jaden Daniels have put a QB spy out there. They've been like, nope, we're dedicating one guy. Whenever he leaves that pocket, that's his responsibility. Mike went, no, screw that. We're going to just pressure the shit out of you, kid. And we're going to see if you can figure out what we're doing in behind without your top receiver and Terry McLaurin. And I don't even know, like, yes, Terry's a very good receiver. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if that would have saved them last night. I don't know if Scary Terry makes up for how much pressure he was under all of last night. And then you got guys like Nicky Manwari who just decide they're going to take Trayvon Burks and run him back into Debo and then tackle Debo with one arm while he's still holding off Burks blocking him. Like, this group is different. And it's not like, and again, the comparisons will always be to the LOB and that's the standard, the gold standard in Seattle for defense. The one thing I'll say about the LOB had a good defensive line, and that was the thing. Like, and I know people are going to go, how can you say they had a good, like, they didn't have a unit where you constantly were sitting there going like, yeah, they're going to just take over the game today. Like, they did have a good defensive line with Michael Bennett and Chris Clemens in that group, and they had good linebackers. This defensive line, DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Derek Hall, Chenna Nwosu, like, they are taking over games on their own. And now you've got a secondary in behind that doesn't have to be. You can live with the Ty Okadas. You can live with some of the, guys coming in. The Nehemiah Pritchett played last night, and Reek Wolin, and some of these guys that maybe not always on their game, but Reek actually played phenomenal again. I'll actually correct myself. Reek did have another really good game.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
And you got these guys that can step in and not feel, that they have to be perfect in the back end. Like, it's just it's an unbelievable thing to watch. And the way that, like, on Ty's interception, the sim blitz that Mike brought
Spoon
was it was evil because Spoon came in untouched. They didn't even see the running back.
He shot out like shot out like a cannon.
But
go
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think, like, when you're talking about the LOB era, Bennett and Averill were really good. So was Chris Clemens, and obviously, like, great memories, great players, but like, what you're seeing from Leonard Williams and from Byron Murphy, like, you are seeing arguably the best defensive tackle in football right now. And the young up-and-coming guy that might actually be having a better season or equally as good of a season in Byron Murphy, like a sophomore year surge is what you're seeing. And I feel like that is just we have never seen that as Seahawks fans. I'm trying to think of a comp where a team had 2 all-pro caliber defensive tackles at the same time. I mean, we're talking like the Great Wall in Minnesota with the William brothers. Like, I'm trying to think, and even those guys, I mean, I don't know if that was the Brett Favre years or even before that, but like, just the constant, like, funnel pressure right up the middle. We are just causing so much chaos and so much havoc on these quarterbacks. And it goes back to, you want to, like, look at the Super Bowls that these greatest quarterbacks of all times have lost. It's because Tom Brady couldn't step up against the Giants. It's because Patrick Mahomes couldn't step up against Tampa Bay or against the Eagles. It's that pressure right into their chest from the interior offensive line coming from those defensive tackles, because more than half the time it's the edge guys that get rewarded for that. But what these guys are doing is what you see Super Bowl championship teams do. And then you bring in, like you talked about, you bring in Tank Lawrence and you get Derek Hall back. Like, these are 4 guys. Like, Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams are probably each going to have 10 plus sacks as defensive tackles. That is wild on one team to have that happen. That does not happen very often. Lawrence is in position where he could possibly get that. If Derek Hall didn't get hurt, he might be in position to pick up a few multiple sack games coming up. And so you have that, and then you add the secondary that gets two blue chip athletes. I'm not saying they're blue chip players yet. I think we both agree Nick Emanworry and Witherspoon have that potential to be blue chip superstar players. But you saw last night the athleticism. You saw why they were drafted where they were drafted. The way Spoon just ran right through into that blitz. I know it was a clear thing, but that speed to basically make Jaden Daniels panic and throw the ball up in the air. I know he was trying to throw it out of bounds. Jaden Daniels got a hell of an arm. He couldn't even get the ball out of bounds because of that hit that Spoon brought on him. Nick Emanworry made Deebo Samuel look small. Right? Like Deebo Samuel used to make the Seahawks look small and weak. You added so much athleticism and so much nastiness throughout this defense that you brought up again. Reek Woolen had a great game. Reek Woolen might be like your 11th guy on your defense. Do you know how many defenses in the NFL would love to have Reek Woolen to be like a legitimate, like prominent figure of their defense? He's battling to get snaps right now. Like that's what we're talking about. Ty Okada even comes in here. Drake Thomas, like it just keeps coming. So you have all this talent, which is a hat tip to John Schneider for what he's been doing, and then you give them freaking Einstein to create something special in Mike Macdonald. And like you said, it's his masterpiece. And I think just how fast we looked last night. Yeah, Jaden Daniels' hamstring wasn't 100%, right? Like he's not running his full speed. But man, I did not feel like for 1 second I was concerned about him getting away from our defense. I feel like he had to run for his life. And again, they're beat up, but like you said, Scary Terry comes in there. I don't know how much better they do. Like we are fast and we are ferocious and we are hurting people, and it's just unbelievable to see right now.
Yeah, the unfortunate part is we did lose a key cog to that defensive unit last night, and Mike Macdonald today is kind of still said the same stance when it comes to the Ernest Jones injury of it's not season ending. We'll know more on Wednesday. There's imaging. There's a whole bunch of things. The thing I'll say that's a positive is you heard some of the reporters say after the game, I know Corbin Smith was one of them, that they saw that Ernest was really pissed off that the training staff took his helmet away from him, which to me is generally a better sign than, hey, it's a player that's kind of come to the realization their season's over. He was jumping around on the sideline in his sweats and stuff with the team and all excited. So again, those are some positive signs. Now, this doesn't mean that we may not see Ernest Jones for the next couple weeks. But I wonder, personally, in the back of my head, in my opinion, going, if they knew it was a sprain or a bruise of some sort, and they knew they had the game in hand, hey, let's get him out. Let's see if we can get it a 2-week kind of a thing where we can get him off it right away, get some treatment on it, even in the locker room, and then he misses the Cardinals game because they're going to need him back for that Rams game. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the thing is, can Ernest Jones make it back in time for the Rams game if he misses next week and they can treat it and do all those things? That's the hope. Hopefully we find out that it's, something up to that extent. I think we can survive the Cardinals game. Sounds like it's going to be Jacoby Brissett potentially again playing against us. So I'll take that any day. I hope that's where we're at, but it'll make things interesting. If this injury to Jones is more than what I think people were anticipating or what Mike was anticipating or John, you may see a move for a linebacker at the trade deadline. But overall, man, do you think there's a defense out there that's better than ours right now?
I don't. And the reason why is just, again, you go back to, hey, in a month, we're going to get Julian Love back, who I love Okada. I love Kobe Bryant. Emanworry is going to probably be one of the faces of the franchise moving forward. But Julian Love is arguably one of your best defensive players, and we've barely seen him so far this year. Like, you add him in, we'll see what happens in the next, 18 hours of the deadline. If they decide, hey, we need to add a linebacker, we need to add another defensive back, or if you got a shot to make a move for somebody, like this defense could still get better. And if it gets better, look out, because I already think it is the best. I think part of that is players, and part of that is you have, in my opinion, the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. Now, if you can just stay healthy, that's the key. Stay healthy through 17 games. So when you get a home playoff game, or if you have to go on the road, you got full strength on that defense, because that defense, in my opinion, is good enough to win you 2 or maybe even 3 playoff games.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Let's talk about this coaching staff a little bit here,
Yeah.
Mike, and the mind's kind of, I call it the mind, but the mind behind this mayhem. And you've got Clint Kubiak now in his bag as an OC. Like, that hire looks like they nailed it out of the park. And I know some people are already talking, well, the offense keeps playing the way it is. Is he going to be a head coach next year or potential? I've got a feeling that they're probably, I think Clint's here for at least 2 seasons. This and another minimum. I think it could be 3. I just, there's things about Clint to me that give me Darrell Bevel vibes, in the sense of Bevel got all that praise for so long, but he never materialized into a head coach because his persona, he was a bit dry in some of the interviews and stuff like that. Like, teams, when they're hiring a head coach, you need to have a bit of charisma. And you think about Mike last year. Like, Mike was pretty dry. Now he's gotten a bit of his charisma into it, and you can see kind of more who Mike is, and he's kind of come out of his shell a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Clint, but again, just he's doing a hell of a job with this group. They're not abandoning the run game. They're still using it to their advantage for play action. You got Jay Harbaugh, who's got the special teams group just playing absolutely phenomenal football. Like, again, I was one of the guys where I sat there at the beginning of this year and I went, hey, you know what? I think Jay Harbaugh's on the hot seat. Like, this special teams unit, man, he's got them playing lights out football. And then obviously, what Durday's doing with the defensive line group and the defense with Mike Macdonald and Carl Scott and, Leslie Frazier, like, it's unreal. But there's some other guys, when we talk about this group, I think get forgotten about. I think Paul Amalu with the running backs, yes, they may not be producing, but he has done some great work with Robbie Oots, turning him into a fullback. Yep. And then on top of that is one guy I think that is going to be up for OC positions is Jake Peets. This passing game, like, you can now see why they kept Jake Peets when they knew they were going to be hiring Clint Kubiak, and his ability to marry the McVay to the Shanahan system, because that's really what you're getting in this passing game. Like, watching it through and through, what I've seen from Seattle is there are so many concepts that you go, yep, that's a Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan concept. And then you look 2 seconds later and you go, that's very Kevin O'Connell and Sean McVay concept. And it's that ability for Clint to bring what he knows from Shanahan and marry it with what Jake Peets knows from McVay. And you're seeing this hybrid monster that's being created right now in the NFL, which is the Seattle Seahawks offense.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's just a perfect storm of talent acquisition from the player side, and then the coaches developing these guys, making the right decisions, trusting these guys, and you're seeing just the fruits of the labor, right, over the last 2 years. And starting with the OC, this, again, it goes back to John and Mike understanding they had to move on from Grubb, and they were deliberate in their decision of who they were going to go get, just like John was deliberate in waiting for Macdonald. If you remember, we were the last team, right? Us and was it Washington with Dan Quinn to get a coach. And the Grubb thing's interesting because if he had worked out, he would have been gone pretty quickly, right? You look at some of these college coaching jobs that have opened up; those are jobs that normally don't come around every 10 or 15 years, and one of them would have offered Grubb the thing. And Grubb comes from a place where it's basically him and DeBoer, and there's not a whole lot of a tree there with what those guys are doing. And credit to them, they look like they've got Alabama ready to make another national title run. So, like, obviously together they're better, apart they're not. And so it was kind of always that fear, well, if it works with Grubb, he's gone. And then what do? You have to bring in something completely new. The benefit of Kubiak is if he leaves, I think you and I both agree, that probably means the Seattle Seahawks probably either lost a heartbreaker game in the NFC Championship game, or they were in the Super Bowl, win or lose, right? I think, would you agree? Like, that probably means I'm not saying we win out, but we probably clinch the 1 seed. All this offensive stuff continues. And even though he seems like he's very dry and may not be the guy that you want, on those Twitter sound bites, right? Like, if we're running like the greatest show on turf type of stuff going on here, and we're winning 13 games, 14 games, and we're playing in the Super Bowl, that's how your offensive coordinators go, even if they aren't the right guy for the job, right? Jonathan Gannon's a great example of it. If the defense is that good, even if you're a weirdo, like, you're still going to get a good job. And that may happen. And if that happens, it's okay, because it means that we just had probably the most magical season out of the blue that we've ever had in Seahawk history. also one of the benefits of if you were to lose him is I think Mike sees this now, and so does John, is you're in the Shanahan Kubiak wave now. Like you are part of what is it, 8 to 12 teams in the league. They all run the same scheme. All of their dads worked for a dad who worked for Mike Shanahan, Mike Holmgren, or Gary Kubiak, right? So all those guys are connected. And so if you move on from him, sure, bring in Jake Peets, give him the title, let him, continue what Clint has done. Mike and John now have these connections where they're going to go get the next, Shanahan Kubiak pupil that's coming up through the ranks. I'm sure they got another kid somewhere. There's Shanahan kids and Kubiak kids all over the place. Like you basically build that wave, and now your infrastructure is Mike's defense and then the Kubiak Shanahan wide zone scheme offense. And so that's where I feel like if he goes, it means something special happened. But like you said, the Jake Peets, the McVay, all that connections, like something special is built here, and that's what's super exciting. Harbaugh, give him props. Like again, what are we, the best special teams unit in the NFL per DVOA, I believe. I think by all metrics we're either first or second. Didn't really have to talk about our punter Dixon last night because he barely punted the ball until the game was out of reach. But Myers doing what he needs to do. Shout out to Peely getting that fumble. All right, is that one of the biggest special teams guys out there on the field that you're going to see? That was pretty cool. And then again, Dirday doesn't get the credit because Mike's the mastermind, but props to Dirday for what he has gotten out of this defensive line, man. I know that's his specialty, and he created something special in Dallas with Dan Quinn and Micah Parsons and those guys and Lawrence, and he's come over here to Seattle, and they gave him a little bit more talent, and he's absolutely cooking with it. And it's special to see. And you mentioned Polamalu earlier. I'm trying to think if there's been a game or a moment where a running back has missed a block. The running game's not where we want it to be, right? It's continuing to slowly, like baby steps, get better. But the pass blocking, we even saw Kenneth Walker look pretty deadly in the receiving game early on last night. Like, it's just all coming together. It's just, again, talent acquisition from John to the staff developing to making the right plays and letting these guys, like you said, Mike, get out of the way and let these dogs hunt, man. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah, it's truly been really, really impressive to see what Mike Macdonald's done in, for me, when they hired him, I went, okay, this is going to be a 3-year retool, rebuild process, right? To get the Seahawks in Mike Macdonald's image. It has literally taken them, I would say, half a season on either end. Like back end of last half season after they got Ernest Jones, you saw this defense, and then this offseason was like, okay, cool. We're now going to reshape this offense the way we want. Let's jettison Geno. Let's get rid of DK. Let's move on from Tyler.
Yes.
And let's go get a quarterback, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Cup. And let's bring these guys in that fit what Mike wants. And like Mike's talked about DeMarcus Lawrence being like, we have to literally tell him to chill out and practice. Like he just goes.
I love that. That's awesome, man.
But that's what you're seeing. And like this is what was so great about those early Pete teams was the level of compete. And the level of everybody was competing. And then it sort of wavered, and Pete kept preaching it. But you heard the guys say that, well, no, it didn't apply to Russell Wilson. It didn't apply to certain guys here and there. And so I think that's the one thing that Mike has to stay on top of. If this is how Mike's going to run his team and the organization with John, this has to be the main foothold, that we are a team of 70, 12 as one. That whole thing can't waver from that. And I think he's got it. And I think Mike's mentality from the Harbaughs won't waver the same way it did maybe for Pete towards the end. But only time will tell. But realistically, like this is just so impressive what they've done in the span of a season and a half in getting this team into the conversation of we are now sitting at the top table in the NFL with the top teams, and teams sitting there and people taking notice and being like, hey, you know what? Seattle's back. Seattle's scary again. And those are things that we haven't heard in a while. But let's talk a little bit about this. This day kind of that's coming up, and I guess, in a couple more hours here, it'll be on the East Coast. It'll be tomorrow. It almost
1 o'clock.
As it is. 1
o'clock Pacific Standard
Time. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. But what I will say is some of my sources who this offseason gave me some really good intel that was able to kind of point me in the right direction with some things have given me a few more things. And I was on a show earlier today, and they were asking me a bunch of stuff, and I didn't give anything away. I made sure to save it for you guys here on the Hawks Eye. But I can tell you the reason Schefter, Jay Glazer, and Jordan Schultz have all been so active with Seattle is there are things going on. And they're not just throwing fodder out there and fluff to, sell, whatever, clicks and stuff. When those guys, like especially when Schefter and Glazer and Schultz, who are very well connected with the Seahawks organization, like the Seattle Seahawks organization likes them, they feed them information. There is more than just smoke at this point. There is some fire starting to burn. And what I will say is I have heard that Seattle is big game hunting right now in the trade deadline, and not just, hey, we're talking about going and getting a piece that may help us this year and renting. No, like I'm talking about Seattle is truly big game hunting for like flipping the organization into a Super Bowl window for the next 7 years type of moves. And sometimes these things happen. Sometimes they fall through last minute. Other teams get cold feet. But what I'll say is the Seahawks are willing to move 2 first-round picks for the players that they're looking at. There's a reason the boy Mafe knew him out, and I can't obviously give you what my sources have directly told me because it's just not fair to them. But I can tell you is be by your phones tomorrow. There is probably going to be some news coming down in the next, I don't know, I guess it would be what? Less than 6 hours, 10 hours or so here, Mike, something like that. Something around that. They'll probably hear something start chirping, but there's a reason Seattle's been quiet. There's a reason Schefter did what he did on McAfee today with his grin. If Schefter's got that grin, he knows more than he's letting on. Schultz put out the tweet last night. Seattle is not necessarily prepared to just sit there and be okay. They view this as now their Super Bowl window is opening. It's not open. They're not trying to keep it open. It's opening, but they don't want to just slowly open it. They want to basically kick the door down and make an announcement to everybody that they're serious about what they're doing. I've got a feeling that if what I've heard goes through, there will be some very, very happy Seahawk fans that won't necessarily care what the compensation was that was given up because it might be something that sets this team up for the next 7 years.
Yeah, no. So everyone, if no trade happens, at Bryce and boo that man if nothing happens. So
yeah,
no, I believe Bryce. And obviously this is something we've never seen before, right? I mean, in the John Schneider era, it's out of the blue. I remember the Jimmy Graham trade. It felt like it was not that much long after the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden it was just like, look at your phone, and obviously, whoa, holy crap, Jimmy Graham, Max Unger in a first, or whatever that pick was, like, holy crap, that's insane. To hear this much is odd. This is not typical, but again, like you said, those are 3 guys that are very well connected to the Seattle Seahawks, and those are honestly the 3 hottest names when it comes to breaking news these days. Like, those are the 3 shams for NBA fans, the Woj bombs from back in the day that you're going to see here. And I agree with what you're saying. John has never been hesitant whenever he thinks he has a window, right? The Percy Harvin trade, the Jimmy Graham trade, the Sheldon Richardson trade, the Dwayne Brown trade, the Jamal Adams trade. We may not all agree of what state or level of play our Seahawks were at when those deals were made. Percy Harvin, absolutely. Jimmy Graham, you can hate what they did or how that worked out, but you can also understand where John wanted to go for it in that sense, right? And that's what you want a GM that's going to go for it. Sheldon Richardson, Clowney is, again, like, and Jamal Adams, obviously varying degrees of success and failure, but like, I love that our guys goes for it. Leonard Williams, even 2 years ago, I don't think any of us thought we were winning more than 1 playoff game at best, and yet they still went out and got Leonard Williams. Felt early, and again, that ended up being a foundational move that has gotten us to here today. So to hear all those guys talking about something, smirking, smiling, doing the Brian Windhorst bit that Schefter was doing, and Schultz obviously knows Seattle very well, there must be something big. And from what you've heard and stuff, if a deal of that magnitude goes down, one, again, like, this would be a franchise altering move is what we're talking about. when you're talking about multiple first round picks. And so everyone that's going to freak out about multiple round picks, I know Rob Staten runs the Seahawks draft blog. He talked about that, I believe, today or last night with Jeff Simmons. And I just want to echo it again. Those guys are great. And Rob does, and I aspire to do what Rob does with the draft process, but Bryce and I definitely, we do our version of our draft scouting. I think Bryce would agree as well with what Rob has stated. This is arguably, maybe not even arguably, one of the worst draft classes coming into the NFL that we have seen as long as I can remember watching football, and that goes all the way back to the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, this is horrific. Now, does that mean there's no good players? No, there's good players. There's good receivers. Go draft a Buckeye, you'll be happy, right? But the players that are potentially being discussed that would make Bryce and I say this is franchise altering or whatever that would be, you make that deal. You make that deal, right? And even if it doesn't work out, you don't have a regret. And that just kind of speaks to this draft class. And it speaks again to what we saw last night from the Seattle Seahawks. It also speaks to what's going on in the NFC, right? Tampa Bay, same record as you. They got the tiebreaker, but that offense is hanging by a thread with injuries. Philadelphia Eagles, same record as you. They're, I think, maybe even one loss more. They're hanging by a thread with drama. Does A.J. Brown tank this season, right? Like, things don't always feel right the year after a Super Bowl with Philadelphia. The Lions inexplicably lost at home and did not look like the better team against the Minnesota Vikings. Who else had the Green Bay, right? They go all in for Micah Parsons, and all of a sudden, not only do they lose at home to a Carolina Panthers team who, I don't mean to shit on him, doesn't have a real quarterback as quarterback, and Bryce Young. They just ran the ball with Rico Dowdle and played great defense. They also lost their best offensive player in Tucker Kraft. You know, Bryce said earlier, the whole NFL is open, but the NFC specifically feels like it might be one of those things where the winner of the NFC West is going to be playing maybe the Philadelphia Eagles or Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll see what happens on the other side, but it really feels like whoever wins the NFC West is probably going to win the NFC. That's how I feel at this point right now.
I agree. And if you go back and you look at what the Rams did when they finally had assembled a team that they felt was good enough, they go get Matthew Stafford, and then they go make the trade for Von Miller. And that completely changed that season for that team. That team was good, but then you add that extra piece that puts you over the top when you know. And to the point, this probably is the worst draft class I've reviewed, scouted, looked at. And there may be some players that declare that are early that you're not accounting for, but since 2013. And that was a historically bad class in 2013. We're talking the best draft pick out of that class for the Seahawks was Luke Wilson, the backup tight end / starter tight end. Like, realistically, it was. And Seattle, for that draft, sold what? One of their draft picks. They sold their first-round pick for Percy Harvin. When you're a team that's going to be picking from 25 or even the mid-20s, so 25 to 32, you're not really getting a first-round talent. We've seen that here in Seattle. L.J. Collier being one of those guys. Jermaine Ifedi being one of those guys, right? Guys that we took in the late first round with a first-round pick that never materialized because you're really getting guys that are second-round guys. And John and this scouting group have made hay and great picks from the second to fifth round. They've nailed it. Think of the guys they've been able to pull out of those, draft classes in that area. It's only been when they've had and been afforded, JSN being the exception, being picked 20, but Devin top 5. Charles Cross, top 10 pick. Like, that's when they're getting guys that are home run hits. Other than that, Seattle does not have a great track record of drafting guys in the late first round that turn out to be anything. They're better at picking guys in the mid round. So if you're telling me that Seattle has an opportunity to go get a player that is going to be better than anybody you could pick in this draft or even next year, and you're giving up 2 first-round picks with the young talent you currently have on this roster, we're talking about a potential franchise quarterback that is under 30. We're talking about a defense that's basically pretty much majority of it is going to be under 30 years old for the next couple of seasons outside of like Leo and some of these guys, and a receiver that's one of the best young receivers in the NFL. And you now got potentially Torrey Horton and all these other young pieces. You got a young offensive line. Like, this
Barner,
is an opportunity.
Arroyo,
Barner, Arroyo, like, you have an opportunity now where you're not going to pay some guys out of these classes you've drafted. We probably know they're not going to pay Boye Mafe. They're probably not going to play Ken Walker. Reek, I think, is still up in the air because I don't think Reek's getting moved. I think he's done quite a bit in these last 2 games to really show himself to Mike. And now he's got to continue it down the stretch to see if he can still work himself into a deal. But when you look at that, it changes the complexity of how you evaluate the next 5 years for the Seattle Seahawks. We're not hunting a quarterback. We're not going to be hunting a key left tackle. We're not, and if you get one of these guys, potentially that's a game changer, you get a game wrecker edge or something like that, and now you're not hunting that in the draft. Now the rest of the draft becomes, okay, now we're filling in gaps that we have. We're filling in depth. Yeah. We're going and getting, guys, we can take some swings on some guys in those mid rounds. But that's where I look at it and I go, that's why it's so intriguing to me with Seattle, because John has never shied away from pulling the trigger when he thinks he has a window. And this, I think, is his window and his opportunity. I think he knows it. And that's why I think they're going to push so hard in this trade deadline over the next couple of hours here to really come and get, potentially a franchise-altering player to add to the group they already have. But that's what we'll discuss on that, Mike, and we'll see what happens. And again, if guys, these things can all fall through, but from what I have been told from some people that are quite connected is that Seattle is very, very, very much involved, and they are very much big game hunting, and just not minimal big game. Like, I mean big game hunting. So, Mike, let's talk about some game balls here before we get to the chat. And there's been a lot of stuff going on in the chat, which has been awesome. I appreciate every one of you guys commenting and being in the chat. But Mike, give me your 3 game balls for this game for you. Who are the 3 guys that stood out the most? And even coaches can be a part of this as well.
Yeah, game ball for me goes to Sam Darnold, right? That was arguably the most unbelievable first half of football I've seen from a quarterback in my time watching quarterbacks play. The offensive line did a great job giving him time. Kubiak was in his bag. But again, some of those touchdowns were not easy throws. He had to maneuver in the pocket. That first drive was just like, I think I sent an image of Mike Holmgren to Dan Viens of just like a chef's kiss. Like, that drive was so like perfect with the bootlegs, the quick passing, the running was all there. Darnold was unbelievable. That was the game where when we are getting into week 15, 16, and he's the MVP favorite or right there, we'll remember last night as the game that springboarded him into that moment. And so that was awesome. And then I'm going to say offense. I understand you got some defensive guys, but I want to shout out Elijah Arroyo, his first NFL touchdown on just a beautiful seam route. Like, that is literally the route that made him almost a first-round pick, right? His ability to stretch the middle of the field with his size and his speed was magnificent. Again, another great throw from Sam Darnold, and a shout-out to Elijah for holding on to that and getting that touchdown. That's where it felt the game was over. And then another game ball to another guy for his first touchdown, Cody White, catching that, breaking that tackle. What do you go, 62 yards? Like, again, there's so many game balls to give to this whole team. But Sam, welcome to the MVP table discussion. And then Elijah Arroyo and White, just super cool when it was needed most for someone to step up. Yes, Torrey Horton stepped up, but those guys getting big plays in and basically ending the game with 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. I was already thinking, sweet, who can we rest, right? Because I'm already like, I don't know about you. I am like, I remember back in the day when it was like number 1 Michigan versus number 2 Ohio State or whatever, like College Game Day would have like a ticker of how long, and it was like 6 weeks until the game, and they had a countdown going on. I feel like I've had that countdown for the Seahawks at the Rams. And I just feel, and you saw it with what they did to the Saints, like, you can make a case the Rams and the Seahawks might be the 2 hottest teams in the NFL right now. I am very interested to see how our physicality matches Matt Stafford's body, because I think we have a real shot to give them a good wake-up call in LA. And so that's where I'm already at. I'm already trying to think about how to get out of those games. But Sam, congratulations. Welcome to the MVP discussion. Arroyo and White, congratulations on your NFL touchdowns.
All right. Okay. So for me on those, because you basically took everybody on offense, I think one of the game, JSN is going to get one of my game balls because JSN's still out there, 8 catches, 129 yards. I'm pretty sure he made Trey Amos pull his groin so that on that one move where Arroyo caught his touchdown.
Where he didn't even get the ball? Yeah.
Yeah, and Amos looked like he legitimately pulled his groin because then the next series is when Cody White got his touchdown and Amos couldn't even keep up to Cody White. So I got a feeling that JSN contributed to an injury there. Another one for me defensively, I got to go with, mainly the secondary, like Tyakata, Nicky Manwari, Devin Witherspoon.
Give it to all of them.
Kobe Bright, like that whole group back there played a phenomenal game. You got Nicky Manwari, like I said earlier, just blowing up bubble screens. And you got to think, he took Deebo Samuel, who is known as one of the toughest receivers to tackle, just due to his physical size and the way he runs. He took him down with one arm while fending off a block from another large receiver in Burks and blew him up into the bubble screen. So I got to go there. And then my last game ball, I'm giving it to the O-line. 0 sacks again.
Yeah.
Like, you got to think, you're talking about Drake May earlier being in the MVP conversation with Sam Darnold. Drake May has been sacked 34 times. Sam Darnold has been sacked 9 times. When is the last time we have said at a halfway point of a season, oh yeah, our Seahawks quarterback has only been sacked 9 times? And here's the
only
thing,
when
yes,
Walter Jones and Hutch are on the offensive line, probably.
Right, and that's the reality of it. And this is the thing that's so weird this year is, yes, the offensive line is not the talking point. Like Bradford is, maybe, herein, and Bradford probably played his best game as a Seahawk last night. Yes, there's definitely still areas of Bradford's game where he needs to get better, but overall, like, that was probably your best looking offensive line performance. Like, the run game started to turn. We saw Walker and Sharps get some, traction going in that regard, and it's still a work in progress. But I don't hate this offensive line like I've hated past Seahawks offensive lines where I've been like, they are literally the reason we are not going anywhere and we're just turning in the mud. Like, yes, there's still pieces that need to be added to it. Yes, I'm not going to be upset if Seattle somehow adds a guard at the trade deadline, like a Cesar Ruiz, that can plug and play and be an upgrade.
That'd be awesome. Mm-hmm.
But I'm not looking at this O-line going, yeah, the O-line is going to be the complete reason we fall apart this year. Like, that's not how I look at this team at all. So those are my 3. I'm going JSN, I'm going O-line, and I'm going the Seahawks defensive secondary. And to be honest, like, I'm going to give out a 4th. The Seahawks defensive line again, Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, DeMarcus Lawrence.
Everybody gets Derek a game ball. You get a game ball. You get a game ball. Everyone gets a game ball.
It. Like, there's no bad, like, outside of the Ernest Jones injury and Josh Jobe getting knocked out by Tyakata, I guess those are the only 2 points. Other than that, this team played well. Like, George Halani looked good coming in for his spot. We kicked the team's ass up and down the field. And I know some people look at it and they may go, oh, well, the Commanders were 3-5 going into that game, or they were, whatever they were at that point. You were playing a team that had just gotten their franchise quarterback back, that were desperate, that needed to win that game because the next 2 games for them, if they lose it, basically turn them into sellers because they've almost sold the season. And that's kind of what they've done now at this point with Jaden Daniels. Again, my heart goes out to Jaden Daniels. That was a gruesome injury, and I'm so thankful that it wasn't to his throwing arm and it was to his non-throwing arm of all things, because that just, you see an injury player that's trying so hard. And I know a lot of people want to give Dan Quinn shit for that. And I can see both sides of that as a coach myself. Like, it is somewhat inexcusable to keep your quarterback in that's a franchise guy in that late into a game that you have no hope of winning, especially when you decide to punt it on what you did earlier in that quarter. But at the same token, it's the first time you've gotten him back, and probably Cliff Kingsbury's in his ear being like, I need to get something. We need to get something positive for Jaden to continue to build on success-wise. They're down within the 5-yard line. It's hindsight. It's 50-50. It's whatever you want to call it. It's not an easy position. Dan Quinn came out today and basically took ownership for it, which, again, he should.
I thought that was good. Mm-hmm.
It's just the facts of it where I look at it and I go, I understand both sides. Like, it's just a horrible, shitty thing that happened. And I'm going to put this one right up right now. Rockman comes in. He goes, if Darnold got hurt, we'd be angry with Mike too. 100%. If Jaden scores there and he doesn't get hurt, no one's saying anything about why is Jaden Daniels still in the game when it's, whatever it is.
I think one of those Yeah, I think one of those things also is like, as a coach and and stuff, like these dudes are wired to go for it,
Yes.
right? Like they're not wired to, all right, it's 38-7, there's 15, there's 12 minutes left. Like I need to take out my guys. Like the reason why they're in the positions they are is because like they didn't ever let up. Like they grinded and fought and clawed and scraped to be where they're at. And Dan Quinn is like literally the physical embodiment of that. Like, just never giving up. And as Seahawk fans know, like that's an intense dude that doesn't let up. And so I appreciate him a day later apologizing and taking. That's what a coach should do. That's why he's a good coach in Atlanta, and that's why he's been a good coach in DC, even though this year's kind of gone off the rails. But like I don't fault him for them, and I don't fault them from not giving up, right? Like that's just the way it is. And this is just a freak accident that happened. That's how I look at it.
It is, and the other thing is that it happened at the same yard line in the opposite end zone of where RG's three, and it's no different than the Joe Theismann and Alex Smith. I honestly believe they need to build a new stadium in Washington because there's just some bad juju that goes on there with quarterbacks of their friend. Whenever they get a guy that can stabilize their franchise, something bad happens, and
something
it's
snaps.
no different. Yeah, and it's no different than when we go to Arizona, and I hate going to Arizona. So, but that's the game ball segment of this Seahawks Aftermath, and let's get into our Q&A here, Mike, because there's been some great stuff that's been put in here. So, first up, Master Chef goes, Max Crosby or Myles Garrett, you are a Seahawk. Well,
why not both?
We'll see tomorrow. Enough first-round draft picks to make that one possible there, Mike.
Let's get crazy.
Let's get real crazy on that one. CK Seahawk comes in. He goes, boy, was I wrong with my prediction. I guess 34-13 Hawks.
Ooh, close.
Close. I said 27-20, I believe was my prediction, because I actually thought it was going to be a closer game. Like, I was sitting there at a point, and when it was just like bang, bang, it was very much like that Pittsburgh second half. That fumble on the kickoff.
Oh, yeah.
Completely ignited the steamroll that was, ensuing and coming from the Seahawks. What else we got? I'd rather be flying an X-Wing. Respectfully, I think receiver is further down the list of needs for the Seahawks. We saw that this offense can do with the weapons it already has. Those assets are better spent elsewhere. I agree.
I don't disagree. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I honestly believe Torrey Horton coming out last night and showing what he can do. They moved Arroyo around. He was in the slot. He was in some different spots than just tight end. I think they look at it now as if there is a potential to make an acquisition for someone that gives them a little bit something more, depending on what the situation with Bobo and Young and Kupp is. Seattle may be active. One name that I've got thrown out to me today that I think could be a guy is Hyatt from the Giants.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, a former first-round pick, hasn't really had a chance to break out, but was the best receiver in college football when he was at Tennessee. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, like, if I find out tomorrow we got Rashid Shaheed for a fourth-round pick, I'm not going to be upset. I do think, though, that, like, you can make a case Torrey has shown that he can be that over-the-top guy. I think Torrey's a lot more than just that. I almost wonder now if you're looking for a big-body move-the-chain guy, because if Bobo just isn't going to have be able to be healthy this year, and again, I know Cooper Kupp is kind of that chain mover kind of guy in theory, but I almost wonder if you need that. But again, I'm not that concerned because I still think, and it's been proven so far, Seattle is at its best when it's running that 12 personnel, man. When you get Barner and you get Arroyo going, and now maybe this is what gets Arroyo really going and rolling and stuff. And then I wouldn't be upset if we go out and get one more body, but Torrey showed a lot last night, and shout out to Cody White as well. He made a play. It was awesome.
Corey comes in with linebacker might be the biggest need tomorrow. Yeah, it potentially could be. And the next two games are division games, and the Rams game is huge. Yes, as Mike alluded to, there is that ticker. The Rams game is huge, and it's going to be the countdown clock because that game is going to be massive. And it's sad because I know they won't flex it into a Sunday night one because I think the Eagles are playing Detroit that night, so they may keep it out. But that would be a really good Sunday night game to have. Islam comes in now that we've got an MVP caliber type QB, a solid offensive line, and a really good defense. Time to go all in for Myles Garrett or Max Crosby. Instant division favorite and Super Bowl contender. I am not opposed to any of that.
Nope. That is the franchise-altering move if you can pull that off.
Richard comes in. I think he's talking about Kobe Bryant here. They're not going to just let Kobe walk away because they have Okada and they can draft a guy. The thing I'll say about the Kobe Bryant thing is they tried to sign Kobe in the offseason. There was Brady Henderson came out with a report saying they tried to work out a deal and they just couldn't get it done. I think part of it was Kobe wanted to bet on himself. I think there is going to be a situation where Kobe can get paid more money elsewhere by somebody else. Just like Geno Stone got paid money elsewhere out of Baltimore type of thing. I think that's going to be a potential thing where Seattle might say, okay, Kobe, go see what you can get on the open market and we'll come back and talk to us. And that's what it very well might be, because I think Mike looks at Kobe Bryant and Ty Okada as interchangeable pieces.
Yeah, I agree. And also it's not in here, but you also have Julian Love, who you're hoping comes back fully healthy at some point this season. Yes, you can draft a guy, and you have Nick Emanwuri. Like, I understand, I think Mike wants to make Emanwuri his version of Kyle Hamilton, which is totally fine. You can do that. And again, like, I think you and I have talked about this a couple times on the show. The supply of good to very good safeties is the highest I can remember in the league in the last few years. There's just good safeties everywhere, and that tends to have led the last couple of years with safeties not making a ton of money on the free agent market. And so I wonder if Seattle says, hey, this is our offer for you. And Kobe says, cool, I want to go find a desperate team that's going to offer me more. And I'm sure John said, cool, can we get a last offer and see? That's typically how you do business and stuff. Because if it's too much, that's fine. We'll draft a safety in the second or third round, and we'll run with Okada and Love and Emanwuri and that guy. And hey, we found an Okada here. We're going to go find an Okada there, because that's how these guys are wired. And if Kobe's asking for $4 million more than what you're willing to go for, I like Kobe Bryant. I think he's had a good year, but I think you can go and replace that production without spending that money.
What's hilarious about this, though, is we're forgetting about one safety on Seattle's roster I think they'll bring back next year. DeAnthony Bell.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, they could go and say, hey, we don't even need to draft a safety next year because we got 4 already. Like, that's
exactly
kind of the mindset you could have with Seattle. So it'll be interesting. Kumar comes in with a $2 donation. Appreciate that. Arizona is going to be a challenge. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
They beat the Cowboys?
They did beat the Cowboys, so they're still relevant. What else do we got here? Dennis comes in. Bryce, do you think the Hawks will make a move? And I think the Brotherhood is great, and they play as one team effort. Yes. I do think Seattle will be making moves. I think Seattle has, I'll say this, Reek Woolen is most likely, I am like 95% sure Reek Woolen does not get moved at the trade deadline. However, I have a higher percentage that Boye Mafe does. I think there's a much higher chance Boye Mafe is moved at the deadline, just because I think it'll be correlated with other moves that Seattle makes. What do we got here? Amy, our great moderator that's in here with Ian Victor. Always appreciate Amy. This is to the Kubiak thing. He doesn't seem like head coaching material, at least not yet. I agree with you, Amy. He doesn't seem like a head coach to me yet because, you watch those press conferences and they're cringeworthy. But I think this will be, if this offense stays the way it is, this will really be Kubiak's first season of having this type of offense. The Vikings one, he was a one and done. And then basically outside of that, the Saints, he was a one and done. He had an intern type when Nathaniel Hackett got fired in Denver. He doesn't have, and this is the thing, he doesn't have the same kind of repertoire that Kyle or Kevin O'Connell or Sean McVay all had, because remember, O'Connell was underneath, I believe, McVay for at least 2 to 3 seasons before he got his head coaching gig. Kyle had been an OC multiple different stops before he got his head coaching gig after Atlanta. Same with Sean. He had been the OC in Washington for at least 3 seasons. I think there's a good chance Clint Kubiak's here for at least 3. At least the duration of Sam Darnold's initial contract, and then it'll be a reevaluation point at that time.
I hope you're right. I hope you guys are both right.
Dennis comes back in with Bryce. I'm thinking the Colts aren't invincible, and I believe the Seahawks can beat them. Seahawks can shut down Jonathan Taylor in the run and do what they've been doing to most quarterbacks. I think you're right, Dennis. I think there's a good chance Seattle can handle that game, and because it's in Seattle, likely, it's it'll be December 14th, I believe, is that game. So good chance I'll actually be at that game as well. So that'll be a interesting one. But yeah, the weather and everything, like it could be and if that point Seattle's rattled off a few more wins, that place might be rocking. Lumen might be back to being rocking. And by the way, I want to point something out, and Amy might appreciate this, but I don't know if you watched the game, Mike, between the Giants and the 49ers. There was a sure heck of a lot of red that was 49er red in MetLife Stadium. The 49er team just group travels well. They always will. They're like the Cowboys and the Steelers. They just have a faithful that follows them everywhere. So when you saw the game earlier this year, and Amy and a bunch of other Seahawk fans said, no, it was very Seahawk loud. Like, and I believe them. Like, again, the media pans to a certain area of that, stadium where it's ticket brokers. It's not, Seahawks season ticket holders sitting in there. I think Lumen's coming back, and I think it's going to come back even more on this Sunday when the Cardinals are in town, because I got a feeling people are going to go see the Seahawks after them just shellacking the Commanders. What do we got here? Michael comes in. If Clint goes, could we poach Clay from the 49ers? Would be lateral, but we'll get play calling, which he doesn't have now. I don't think that's the likely case. If Clint leaves, I think Jake Peets becomes the OC.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that'd be tough for the 49ers to let anyone make that kind of a move, personally.
Yeah. Division rival, too.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate the $5 donation there, Mike. Really appreciate that. What else we got here? Oh, we got one more. Me, wow.
Whoa. Wow.
Thank you so much for that, Me. Hey, Bryce, just wanted to show some love. Go Hawks, go 12s. Here's hoping we make a blockbuster move before the deadline. Me, I can't thank you enough for that. That is super generous. Wow, that is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Let's go into the chat here.
Bryce is going to Venmo that money right now to John Schneider to make that big fish trade happen.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to send that directly to him. What else do we got in here? There you go. Rockman comes in with, how about Cody White? What I've been saying for a while, we don't play him. It's crazy. Peely was also great in this game, man. Like, Rockman Peely was great. Like, being on specials is kind of this new era, right? Like, you can put big D linemen on there because they can collapse that new style. They don't have to run all the way down the field. What else do we got?
Which, shout out really quick. I think, honestly, that's one of the factors of why I think Seattle has the best special teams. I feel like every time we return a punt, we're getting good returnage, like return yards. And I feel like Jason Myers has figured out how to nail that kick. And then whenever he doesn't nail it, I feel like our defense of the return is the best that I've seen in the NFL. You go watch the red zone, and I feel like every 2 minutes someone's getting the ball past midfield, if not taking it to the house almost. And I don't feel like I've seen that happen against the Seahawks maybe once or twice this entire season. I think that's probably an exaggeration, but that's a big testament to Jay and Mike and whatever they're doing. And that's Mike coming from Harbaugh and Jay from Harbaugh. Like, that is what's in Coach John Harbaugh's DNA as a special teams guy. And we always have an advantage with field position through the first 8 games of the season.
Yeah, we definitely do. Jeffrey comes in with Crosby and JPJ for Mafe, Bradford, and 2 firsts. How you all like that one? I think you'd have to give up another pick because I don't think JPJ to Bradford is an equal trade in the Raiders' eyes. So they may want a little bit more compensation there on that one. But I think that's kind of a thing we could see where, that's the type of materializing of a trade that goes down. What else do we got in the chat here? Just looking through. Amy came in with something. Glad we're done with that burial ground for the year. Yeah, agreed, Amy.
Yeah.
What else we got in here? Oh, here we go.
Hopefully didn't take Jones.
Prime comes in with, I would not mind Hyatt with the double team on JSN. Horton, Cup, and Hyatt would cook wide open. And even Young will come back from the injury. Yeah, like Hyatt to me is kind of I think you could throw a fifth at the Giants and they'd probably bite, and you get a guy that has upside to be a real deep threat and kind of gives you the same thing you're looking for from Shaheed, but you're getting a younger player in it.
Yeah, I'm all for it. First round pick, I assume his contract's probably a little bit heavier than people think, but if the Seahawks can eat a good chunk of that, like you said, I think you're paying a fifth at most.
Agreed. Dennis, Bryce, I watched JPJ against the Jags, and he is good. Yeah, he is. If Seattle were to get JPJ, they'd move him to center because that's his natural position. That's what he's best at. I don't think he would be a guard. Brian comes in with very unlikely teams to trade away any quality right guard. Depends what you're looking for in this. If you're looking for a top 15 guard, you're 100% right, Brian. If you're looking at someone like a Cesar Ruiz, who the Saints have determined they like their younger guards better, and that's a guy they're willing to move off. He is young. He's 26. You'd get 2 years of club control, and his best year was in John Benton's system. That's the kind of guy you're getting. That's a bit of an upgrade. Again, I get your point. Anyone that's a top 15, 17 guard in the NFL, top half of the league, you're right. You're 100% not going to be able to get them unless you're willing to give up a haul for it. So Dennis comes in 1 p.m. Pacific time, 16 hours left in the trade deadline. Yep. Alpha says, I really feel like Boy Mafe is not a Seahawk in 24 hours. I'm starting to get that feeling as well. Even last night, he didn't play nearly as much as I expected him to. They really worked Derek Hall back in and Chenna, and then you had DeMarcus Lawrence there. Like, it'll be interesting. David brings up a good point. Walter Nolan looked really good in his debut. New challenge to the O-line. Yep, he is going to be one. That is for sure. Ian, our moderator, goes, everyone remember, take the info with a grain of salt, but at the same time, the NFL is unpredictable and things can happen. Hopefully, we are active a lot tomorrow and everyone is happy at 4 p.m. Yep, that is 100% on point, Ian. Appreciate that. Let's see. Any more in here? Here's a good one from Dennis. Big Cat still showing Young Bucks he can run as well as he did with Daniels. Yeah, that was an impressive play where he caught Daniels. Philip comes in with, did the Cowboys make a trade? Boy Muffet. Yeah, I know. I heard that today. Jerry Jones made some comment that, we've got a trade, but it won't be announced till tomorrow, and it's based on some other things. So who knows? It could be. We have no idea, but I think that's where we're going to wrap up tonight, guys. Appreciate, all of you being in here for Seahawks Aftermath. And Mike, what do you have upcoming on field goals? What articles do you kind of have kicking out over the next week here?
Yeah, I'll have another 4 prospects to keep an eye on. I won't talk any Huskies this week, so you don't need to worry about that when you guys go to Wisconsin. But just look, I know I kind of shit on the draft class, but again, until we trade all of our picks, these are still things to look at and players to look at, because you never know who's a diamond in the rough and who's being overlooked or misunderstood. I'll have my 4 down territory, and then going to sleep tonight, dreaming about some big fish, some big game hunting, and obviously we'll see what happens tomorrow. And if there's any trades that happen, I'm sure a lot of us will either be hopping on shows or punching out articles. And just like everyone else, we're all going to be all in on that content as the trade deadline goes. Because, again, I think this is the first time I can remember the Seahawks entering a window earlier than maybe anyone thought, and they have the assets and the financial freedom to make a move. And it really sounds like, from all the insiders, there's a chance something special happens tomorrow. And so if so, I'm sure I'll be jumping on that very quickly.
Yeah, so I will go live if there's any breaking news tomorrow, guys. It might just be later on in the day just because of my actual job, unfortunately. But I will, if you guys follow me over on Twitter at the Seahawks I will be retweeting, commenting, posting stuff that I hear. Outside shows coming up this week, we'll have a new Hawks Film Lab with Dan Viens. We're going to be going over all of 17 of Sam Darnold's completions from Sunday night. So we're going to be breaking all of those down. I have Blake Allen Murphy coming on from the Redbird Reboot podcast to preview the Cardinals game. I will also be doing a State of the Seahawks with Mookie Alexander on Friday night. So make sure you guys tune into that. That'll be another live one. And then again, we'll have Seahawks Aftermath following the Seahawks game on Sunday. So guys, going forward, I'm not going to try and compete every evening or that with Seahawks, other content creators doing Seahawks post games. So what I'm going to do now going forward is Seahawks Aftermath will be the live post game show. So that'll be following every Seahawks game. Me and Michael come on. We'll break it all down for you guys. I'm going to start running some polls in YouTube and on the in that regard, so you guys can vote on different things you want us to discuss from the game. Those will go live after every Seahawks game, so make sure you tune in for those. But outside of that, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up here tonight. So stay loud, stay proud, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.